Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart just ordered the DOJ to release a redacted version of the Mar-a-Lago Search Warrant Affidavit no later than tomorrow at noon, which is Friday the 26th at noon Eastern Standard Time. Now keep in mind that a search warrant affidavit is different than the search warrant. The search warrant is what is used to conduct the search. The search warrant affidavit is what is used to obtain the search warrant in the first place. So the search warrant affidavit lays out why investigators thought that there was probable cause that a crime was committed by former President Trump. Now, this motion, if you watched my previous video on this motion was filed by news organizations and the media, not former President Trump himself. So news organizations and the media filed this motion to intervene in this case and unseal the search warrant affidavit because according to them, the public deserves to know what is in that affidavit. They've been reporting on this story since the beginning. They deserve to know, yada yada. So this was heard before Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart. This hearing was held last Thursday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And what he said was, look, portions of this affidavit can be unsealed. Portions of this affidavit can be, redacted, blacked out. And that was ultimately his ruling. After that hearing, the DOJ submitted their proposed redactions. And we weren't sure what was going to happen with that. We weren't sure if the DOJ was going to submit, a completely blacked out document where basically everything was redacted and the document didn't really have any meaning to it because everything was blacked out, but it appears that they left enough unsealed that the judge said, okay, go ahead, this has to be released by tomorrow at noon. So I will put a picture of Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart's order up on the screen. Let me just move this mic over a little bit and I will read it and give you just a quick synopsis of what it says. So it essentially says, I have reviewed the government's memorandum of law and proposed redactions to the search warrant. I find that the government has met its burden of showing a compelling reason, good cause to seal portions of the affidavit because disclosure would reveal 1, the identities of witnesses, law enforcement agents, and uncharged parties, 2, the investigation's strategy, direction, scope, sources, and methods, and 3, grand jury information protected by Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E. And then he goes on to say, based on my independent review of the affidavit, I further find that the government has met its burden of showing that its proposed redactions are narrowly tailored to serve the government's legitimate interest in the integrity of the ongoing investigation and are the least onerous alternative to sealing the entire affidavit. Wherefore, it is ordered that the intervener's motion to unseal is granted in part. On or before noon Eastern Time on Friday, August 26th, the government shall file in the public docket a version of the affidavit containing the redactions proposed in ECF number 89-1. So what that last wherefore clause is essentially saying, for those of you who may not be familiar with legal documents, is just saying the intervener's motion to unseal, which would have been those news organizations and media outlets, their motion to unseal this affidavit is granted in part. So it's not fully granted, meaning the affidavit isn't just going to be unsealed in its entirety, but it's granted in part in the sense that it will be unsealed, but there will be redactions. And then of course that second part is just setting the time frame that the DOJ has to make this affidavit public. So as of tomorrow, we will know more. It could happen before noon, it could happen tonight, but as of now, this is what we know. And once we know more, once this affidavit is released, I will do another video on it, and I will most likely cover this on Monday's podcast episode. So if you're not already following or subscribed to my podcast, make sure to do that. It is the Jordan is My Lawyer podcast, and it can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.